Bishop Charles' character is, he's a friendly person. He just loves everybody. And I think that in this 43 years of our marriage, he could have people centered around him 24/7.
You know, I've been involved in the fire service for well over 32 years. It's a great career. Love it. I would do it again. Matter of fact, I even struggle sometimes being retired from that, because once you've done it, there's nothing that can measure up to it, because each day it changes.
There is an understandable assumption among the public that the fire department was created with the sole mission of responding to and combating fire-related emergencies. This is far from the truth.
Well, I would say that definitely is a huge part of our job, but the majority of calls we run are medical calls. We also run hazardous material calls, car wrecks, public service calls, such as going to pick someone up off the floor. And fires are definitely, like I said, a huge part, but they're what's called a high-risk, low-frequency event. So we train for it. It's what we do, protect lives and property, but it's definitely a small amount of what we actually do on the job. And just as you all seen approximately 10 minutes ago, we had a medical call as we were trying to record this, so we had to leave and go take care of that.
Being a firefighter can be quite fulfilling, but the satisfaction earned from saving others is forged into personal hardship and sacrifice.
One of the things that we kind of talk about when we have new people here is the gear that we put on, the bunker gear that we wear. Inside of it says that firefighting is an ultra hazardous career, which is the truth. So anytime you go in to any kind of a burning building, you don't know if the floor is going to hold you. You don't know if the ceiling is going to collapse. Now, that's what we practice and train for, is to see all that stuff ahead of time, to try and keep people out of those hazards. But when you go into a house that's on fire, you can't usually see 2 feet in front of you. So there's all kinds of hazards that you don't know about. You know, not only is the gas and the fire trying to kill you, but you could be walking into a floor that's not even there.
So unfortunately, in 2022, last year, the statistics came out and we lost 96 firefighters in the line of duty, and that is definitely an unfortunate part of the job. It's a very sad part of our job.
Meet Bishop Charles Anderson. In this episode, he stands in the spotlight as we illuminate the indelible mark he has made on the state of Florida's fire department. We will hear his stories and the positive impact he has made on the lives of the people he served. But first, let's get to know him and the things that make him human.
Well, my name is Bishop Charles Anderson. I've been in the fire service for about 32 years. I'm actually a retired fire chief. Spent time there. It's a great career. And I recently was ordained as a bishop. And this past December, I really enjoy doing martial arts. It's a great way for me as I get older to stay fit. As a matter of fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I received my black belt in martial arts. Love doing martial arts. I love traveling. I love learning about new cultures, learning about new things. I enjoy reading. It's one of my pastime hobbies of reading. Reading, when you read, it can take you anywhere. I really like that. I love food. I love to eat. I love to taste various foods. And so I'm not a food entrepreneur, but I enjoy eating it.
The bishop also speaks about his relationship with God and the importance of family.
You don't choose God, God chooses you.
When praises go up, blessings come down. I came to tell somebody, God is...
And I love the fact that He has chosen me to do this job. I'm grateful, I'm humbled because of that. And God never calls a man because of the man, He calls a man because of the people. And when God allows you as a man of God to pastor His people, I believe our job is to take them to something better, because God's men always takes God's people to something better. When God called Moses, He took them to something better. When God called Joshua, He took them to something better. So I am grateful for the opportunity to serve God's people.
Because after it's all over, I still got a soul to save. Yeah. And a God to glorify. Yes, I do. You gotta tell the devil to say, devil, I changed my mind. I'm gonna live.
You know, my spiritual life, you know, I think when I talk about my spirituality, I enjoy reading and learning more about God. I enjoy connecting with people and helping them fulfill their purpose in Christ. You know, one of the things my wife and I try to do is pray daily. And weekly we try to meet together and we pray. And we're actually now going through reading the Bible together for a year. And so I believe that if you are whole spiritually, it'll help you accomplish so much more in life by keeping Christ the center of everything. Because when He's in the center, it creates balance in your life. Well, I've been married for 43 years to the same woman, of course. I have two sons. My oldest son is 42. My youngest son, I believe, is around 35. And so my mom and my dad are still alive, which is actually awesome. My dad's 90, my mom's in her mid-80s. And we're three boys, there's three of us. I'm the middle of the three. And my oldest brother is a pastor. My youngest brother is also a preacher. My dad's a pastor, and I also reside. So we're a family of pastors. That's who we are.
They say behind every great man, there is a great woman who serves as a gatekeeper and a strong support. Dr. Judith Anderson, his wife and leading lady in his life.
I love spending time with my boo thing, and just going out and enjoying life. Maybe just going for a ride and opening the sunroof and just looking up at the stars. Those kind of things. I love spending time with my husband.
As well as the church in which they oversee.
And I just love the Lord. I love Trinity Church. I am the co-founder and executive vice president of Trinity's Church, one church in several locations, where we believe in teaching the people of God how to fulfill their purpose. And we know that each one of us have a purpose in life. So that's what we want to do. We want everyone to find their purpose, find why they are actually here on earth.
She tells of her love for her husband and spoke about his character.
My husband, Bishop Charles Anderson, was just appointed as bishop last year, and he is a man of God. He is faithful. He is good to his word. Whatever he tells you, he's going to do. He's a man of so many traits. He's a man of his word, man of character, great character, outgoing, and if he sets something in mind to do, he's going to carry it out. He just recently got his black belt, and this was a 3.5-year training course that he had to do, and he was, I'm telling you, adamant about going twice a week to class and making sure that he completed every step, he learned every step, every move, and then I watched him as he got his black belt degree, and I'm so proud of him.
We also spoke with Fire Chief Andrew Marcy. a representative from the Avon Park Fire Department, where the bishop's journey began.
How I got to know Charles Anderson was when I started in 2001. He was the fire marshal for the city of Avon Park, which means he was doing fire inspections. So we would see him from time to time, but we worked sort of a totally different schedule. I was on the fire truck. He would ride around in his own car doing inspections and stuff, but we would go, see him from time to time at different stores. We'd see him in the station because it's a pretty small station. So that's how I got to meet him and know him, was working around here from day to day with him. Charles Anderson to me was always a good guy that would help you do anything you needed. Always willing to talk to you about anything you didn't know or had questions about. Always willing to sit and talk to you about stuff that he knew that you might not knew or should know. If you were out of the truck, he'd walk by and see you and just say, is there anything you got questions with, and walk over there and talk to you about it. So always willing to help, always willing to give you information that he had that you might need. That's the stuff he did for me while I was here.
I had been in the fire service for quite a while and on the fire truck, and then I was actually promoted to the fire marshal of the city of Avon Park, and that was a great thing for me. Being able to do that, learning new things in that role, understanding how buildings were built and how to look at different fire codes and so forth. But that was probably one of my best moments. And probably if I was to add another one, it was a day that I actually retired from Avon Park and then moved on to Orlando.
But discrimination did not prejudice Bishop Anderson's service. Rather, it ignited a greater force to succeed.
Have I experienced racism in the fire service? Absolutely. And I think if I want to tell the story, because one of the things I did when I was in fire school, it was probably 35 to 40 guys. I was the only African American or black guy in the class. And so one day we went to lunch, got back from lunch, and on my desk, there's this cartoon that someone had created of an alligator standing on the dock with a fishing pole, a black man in the lake. The alligator had a watermelon on the end of the line, and it said in the caption, "Fishing for the N-word." We all know what that means. And so, of course, I was upset. Of course, I was angry about it. But I had to realize that I wasn't there to be loved. I was there to get a job, to take care of my family, and start a new career. But it was a tough time for me going through that. I've had instructors while I was in class. I remember asking the instructor a question and saying, "Excuse me, sir, may I ask a question?" And I'm turning around and says, "Hey boy, don't you ever touch me again." And there was a lot of racism early on when I joined the fire service back in the early 80s. But I'm excited about the opportunity that I didn't allow anyone to stop me from achieving my goal.
The fire department is not short on adventures and exploits. Listen as the bishop speaks on one tragic situation in which he found himself.
I think one of the worst experiences, you can probably see my brain kind of going to that right side and recalling, was when I was a firefighter in Avon Park. We had a call one night about 1 a.m. in the morning. There were 2 children injured. And I can remember riding up, I think I was driving that night, and driving up to the scene, seeing the police cars already there, lights there, walked into the house. And as I walked in the house, I see this young child laying on the floor. His diaper was rinsed in blood, puddles of blood on the floor. His intestines was hanging out. And what a horrible scene that we experienced that day. I think this child was definitely under a year's age, under a year old. And then someone said, "Listen, there's another child in the house." And so as the other medics that were there began to tend to the injuries of this child, I walked through the house to look and see if there were other children in the house that were injured. And as I walked into one of the bedrooms, I saw this young girl who I actually knew because I grew up in that community where I was a firefighter. She had been stabbed in the heart, and I can remember just seeing this small trickle of blood coming down from her heart and her laying in a puddle of blood, but she was dead. I think that particular incident was very traumatic for me. Number one, because it was children. Number two, because I knew both of the kids. And what's interesting about that, I was in church a couple of months ago. A young man came to the altar, and he said to me, he said, "You know, Pastor, you prayed for me." And I said to myself, I don't even know this guy. But one of the our minister music said, "You know, that's the young man from Avon Park. He's one of the hearts." And I go, whoa, so you're the guy that was a little child that was stabbed over 40 something times and survived. What a touching moment for me to see this young child who everybody thought would never make it. And anonymously, just out of the blue, he came to visit our church after he was grown up. But that was an incident that has stuck with me for a lifetime.
There are also wonderful stories that serves as a reminder of humility and the goodness of mankind still exists within and around us.
One of the greatest moments, I think, was the opportunity for me to deliver a child. You know, got a call one night, young mother was in labor. You know, you jump on the truck, you turn lights and sirens on, and you go. Walked in the room, the young mother was sitting on the bed, on her knees, squeezing her legs together. And I go, and she says, "Oh my God, my baby's coming." And so I said, "Listen, I need to examine you." So I picked her up. She got a contraction. She went, "Ah!" And we both fell on the bed, you know. We both fall. But I remember after we laid her down, of course, you know, labor happens on its own. I'm just there to assist. I think one of the most interesting moments about that was the fact that when this little child was born, moments and seconds outside the womb, I can remember looking at this child, and he's looking around like, "Hey, where am I?" But I'm sure it was a different world for him. But that was an exciting moment to see this child being born into this world. And actually, the most weirdest thing about it is how the umbilical cord felt. It felt weird, and it was weird, but it was an exciting time.
Staying fit is a critical part of being a firefighter. A member of our crew was challenged to a friendly bench press competition. Welcome, if just for a while, into this environment, a good-natured rivalry amidst professional courtesy. As our conversation came to a close, Bishop Anderson and Mr. Hines left us with an important reminder of the common reasons for house and forest fires.
You know, one of the things when he's talking about fire safety and fire safety for the home, we have this skewed philosophy about it as citizens. We always say or think that a fire is something that happens to my neighbor. But I always remind people that you are someone's neighbor. And really one of the most common fires that happens at home is kitchen fires. You know, people leave stuff on the stove and they walk away and the grease catches on fire. Then the next one is electrical fires. I think one of the things that's so important that you don't run extension cords underneath rugs, make sure that that extension cord is rated for what it's used for. Space heaters is another issue that people have. They're called space heaters for a reason, because they need space.
But probably 70 to 80% of our calls at this point are medical, car accidents, stuff like that. So we do still respond to a bunch of fires, but we're responding to sick people far more than we respond to fires. And accidents on the side of the road, if somebody has gas and they pour it out of their car, we respond to that so they don't catch something else on fire. So we respond to what's called hazmat incidents.
They also gave valuable information on how to protect your home in the event of a fire, as well as preventative measures and recommendations.
What are we going to do? How are we going to prevent fires in our house? Number one, I think prevention begins with having a plan, an escape plan for your family. And secondly, prevention begins with having a smoke detector.
One of the bigger things to fires in the home is unattended cooking. So people will put something on the stove and go back outside to play with their kids, or maybe just sit down to watch TV and fall asleep. That's one of the bigger problems to house fires is cooking. So unattended cooking would be one of the first major things to pay attention to. Is if you're cooking, stay in there with it. Don't leave something on and walk away. Don't put stuff next to the stove if you're trying to cook. Something might tip over when you walk away. So just pay attention to cooking. That's the leading cause of fires in homes.
Forest fires, it's really important that if you smoke, don't flip a cigarette butt out the window. Or if you go camping, make sure that the fire is completely extinguished. Make sure that the coals are completely cooled and covered. It's really important.
Bishop Charles E. Anderson, I love you to the moon and back. You're my everything. I call you my boo thing because you mean everything to me. And I love you with all my heart and every fiber of my being.